Welcome to Heartful Conversations podcast. We are here to inspire you, to sparkle some joy and hope, maybe bring some smiles as well. Now slow down and enjoy.
My name is Lila Vasilescu, and I am the host of this series together with my guests, Marius and Richard. We will be sharing today about a very dear theme and a very current theme, which is hope. But because this is our first podcast together, we want to share a bit about our intentions to be together and how this series came to life. I would say for me that after going through these turbulent few months, one thing that has truly grounded me has been having a community around and having people that we can share our fears as well as our joys. And this is how, in my heart, an idea at one point started that maybe we can get together, and in this togetherness, we can bring a little bit more hope, a little bit more light into days that might seem gloomy. And especially now, as winter is coming, I had this vivid fantasy about being in bed with a warm blanket and a cup of tea and listening to a joyful podcast. So this is how Heartful Conversations started, and I am very happy that we can start this series on hope. A little bit about myself. I am, I would say, a playful and joyful person in general. I rejoice a lot in sharing things that I'm passionate about. Um, I enjoy being with my family and with my 6-year-old son and sharing experiences that bring forth the beauty of life in every moment. And because I have two wonderful guests today, I would like them to share a bit about themselves before we dive right into this theme we have decided to start off this series with, which is hope. So I would welcome Marius to say a few words about himself. Marius, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for your invitation. Um, I think this is a first for me, so I hope the audience is gentle and excuses the eventual errors or hiccups or just the emotions that come up. I am a proud father of two cats and a dog, and I've met Richard and Lila back in 2016. At a time when I didn't have too much hope. Ever since working in Verita, working with children, I've learned how to be joyful, how to just relish in the simple things in life. I welcome this conversation of hope as it's something that I also am getting used to or more comfortable with. And it's an exploration that it's been going on for 30 plus years. And I hope this conversation brings some light into it, both for the benefit of myself and for whoever is out there listening. And I think Richard's next.
Thank you, Marius. I follow two people that I inspire so much, inspire me so much. So it's an honor to be part of this podcast. As Leela said, I think these times of COVID, these last few months and weeks have been really challenging, and I think the first topic on hope is a great one, because I think a lot of us are going through the ups and downs of lockdown and quarantine and hopelessness, and and so I feel so honored to be part of this podcast. I mean, I'm a father of three sons. happily married, part of the Verita team. And I think what inspires me about the podcast and just in general is that we all go through so many challenges, and whether it's COVID or not, I think being a human being is so vulnerable, is so beautiful. And I know in my own life, I've had to struggle with my own fears and worries and anxieties and challenges in life, and it hasn't been always easy. But I think constantly looking for ways to open my heart, to live a wise life. I mean, we all fall down and we have to get back up, and people like Lila and Marius and the whole community and just so many wise people around me have helped me really live a wiser life. And it's an ongoing process. It never ends. I feel like, in my 30s, I was like, yes, this is the way. And then 35 and then 40 and then I'm almost 50 now. And I feel like I'm still in kindergarten learning and joyfully discovering what's happening around. And so I think this podcast is in a way a selfish journey, in the sense that I hope to take this journey with these two wonderful people together, and with you, the audience, and learn together and discover together and find ways to live a happier, more fulfilled, and more meaningful life. So thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Marius. I will share a bit about hope, that we have opened up a bit the subject before starting the podcast. And I wanted to share because I thought there were some really beautiful insights that both of you have shared. Marius was saying that he feels hope is about inviting patience and trust into our life, so that the possibility of what we see in ourselves and others can one day come into play. And Richard was sharing about how when we ground ourselves in the present moment as we look forward to the future with hope, this is our practice. We commit ourselves to cultivate gratefulness and to tenderly open our hearts in this moment. We put gratitude and mindfulness at the heart of our lives. We grow and we cultivate happiness right now, which is really what the point as purpose of all hope in the first place is. So, Richard, you end up saying that hope is the desire to be happy. I heard something that really inspired me the other days. It was a short quote by the poet George Herbert that said that he that lives in hope dances without music. And I really like that, because to me, hope has to do a lot with trust and with playfulness and curiosity. But let's go a bit deeper into what hope really feels like for you in your personal life, and maybe if there are any sharings of stories of hope that you have experienced. And then maybe we can expand the conversation a bit more and just try and see how can we strengthen this sense of hope, especially during these times. So if any of you wants to start off the conversation.
Sure, I can. I said I was new to hope because I always regarded hope as a fool's errand, as in something that I'm chasing after ghosts. I used to believe in the power of action, the power of now, and I thought it incompatible with expecting more from an uncertain future. And I always thought it depends on me to do whatever it needs to be done in order to accomplish, to achieve, to have the experiences that I desired. So hope was centered around the little old me, the sense of me that I had back then, and I discounted hope as being something rather sentimental. What changed this was the fact that Um, there became people in my life who challenged the sense of the little old me, who opening me up for new possibilities. And I remember one time when um, someone I didn't know in 1997 wrote a letter to someone I know in the village where I used to be. And she was looking for her dead brother in the Second World War, and they didn't know where the grave is. And they eventually found out it was in the village I was raised in the summers. And that relative of mine received this letter who didn't know how to translate because it was in English. And I was there to translate. And what I remember was the fact that that person, Siglinde, from the US, was looking for her brother for more than 30 years. And um, for me, it was mind-boggling. I thought, why would anyone do this? I mean, why would anyone not settle for the fact that they lost their brother and they were trying to find them, although they have very little information for a very long time? And they were sharing in the letter that when they were separated, when her brother, Siglinda's brother, died, she was very little and she barely remembered her brother. And she had memories of him playing and having fun and joyful memories. And she said that she just cannot accept the fact that he's gone. So she started looking for his grave ever since she was a teenager, and she never stopped since. And she knew that she would eventually find it. I was puzzled, by that knowing, the certainty, the trust that she would eventually find her brother's grave, which she did. 30 something years later, she found my uncle, who had a memory of some German fighters in the region in the Second World War being killed and being buried in front of the church, and actually remembering the description of Siglinda's brother. And eventually, in the year 2000, 3 years later, after she wrote the letter, she came to this little village in Ardell region, and she stood there in front of the grave, and I was at a loss at what was happening. But I now can tell that what was happening was that a hope was fulfilled, and I could see both sadness and joy, both anguish and peace. I could see all those feelings in the tears that she kept pouring for her brother. And later on, we became very good friends, and she invited me to the States, and this was an opportunity for me to learn more about hope. And I will share more, but first, let's hear from Richard as well. Thank you.
That was a beautiful, touching story, Marius. I think my journey was sort of with hope was twofold. I think early on I was just naturally a dreamer. I mean, I think I had an intimate relationship with hope in the sense that anytime I had a bit of time alone, whether I was a child or older, I was always dreaming about the future. I think a lot of us, as when we're young, we're always thinking about our hopes and our dreams. I think that's the beauty of youth, is that they have their whole life ahead of you, and you have this openness and possibility and excitement. And you see that in the younger generation today, and that anything's possible. And there is a lot of hope in the younger generation. And I think in my own life, looking back, as Marius was talking, for me, it was, in some ways, my wife says to me all the time, I'm a dreamer. I'm always thinking about the future in a positive way. Always try. I think it gives me strength. It gives me air underneath my wings to fly. And so I think the relationship with hope and dreaming and nostalgic future has always comforted me and opened my heart. Um, on the same journey later in my life, I started to really get into mindfulness and the non-dual tradition, which is a bit of the same thing as mindfulness. And the teachings of mindfulness as be in the present moment, and almost as if they were putting down in a way hope and dreaming of a future, and that suffering comes from being too much attached to the past, and regretting the past, or worried about the future, or thinking about the future. So it's always about being grounded in the present moment. And so I kind of, in my middle years, sort of dismissed hope, dismissed dreaming and nostalgia as something that a good mindfulness person doesn't do. But it wasn't true to my heart. And I feel especially, life is challenging, and we shouldn't sugarcoat it, in the sense that this podcast is not about, believing in hope and sugarcoating it. I mean, shit happens, difficulty is there. And in the middle of the fire, when, you lose somebody of cancer, or, there's great loss in your life, to any person who's going through that suffering or that great loss, telling them and preaching them about hope is really annoying and not relevant. But actually, in some ways, it's in that hopelessness that, at least for me personally, when I felt really hurt or suffering, and there was a heavy heart, and it was as if there was clouds um, coming down on my head, that in some ways, having that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, um, uh, feeling something that would lighten my heart up, whether it was an image or something. It could be even a small glimpse of hope of something. It actually made the present moment more bearable, opened my heart more, brought me into the present moment even further. So in a way, it was my own hybrid style of using hope and the belief that the universe is a good place. And it's, for me, I think even hope is a leap of faith in the goodness of the universe. Like, I don't know, I don't remember, I think it was Martin Luther King. I think I saw it recently in an Obama speech, something about, the, I can't remember the exact quote, something like the trajectory or the arc of the universe is long and bumpy, and it goes up and down with difficulties and challenges, but the universe's arc does bend towards goodness or justice. And I truly believe that. In the essence, we have to believe in life. We have to believe in the goodness and the beauty of life. And that's, I think, is a testament of ultimate hope, in the sense that despite the great suffering in the world, and it's not in any way to pretend that the suffering is not there, that, look at what we're going through COVID right now, and how the world has suffered, and how many people I know around me who are suffering, whether it's economically, or I just heard of just yesterday that somebody close to a friend of mine died of COVID. I mean, it doesn't get more real than that. And yet we can't, we can't lose faith in life, trust in life. And that, it is a leap of faith. And yeah, that's, I mean, it's a conversation to continuously have, but I wanted to open up maybe for Lila, if you want to, or Marius, if you want to comment on any of this.
Yes, thank you so much to the both of you. You have touched upon things that are in my heart as well when I think about hope. And I was thinking that in many ways, for me, it's related to a fullness of life, in the sense that whenever this, let's call it, this bandwidth of hope is something that can be very visceral at times. You can become aware, if you pay attention to your emotions and to your mental state and your physical state. You truly sense when something there is, it just doesn't feel right. When you wake up and there are so many things going on and they feel heavy and it feels like a burden. And so um, when I've experienced that, and I know we're referring to these last few months because we have this reality that has hit us, this pandemic that we're facing, but this has been a reality for many people for a long time. And so when I think about that and how it feels, I've noticed how what truly helps is to connect more with nature. That's one thing that for me has helped a lot. And this is why I say fullness of life, because when I am in nature, or when I am close to nature, let's say, because being here in Bucharest sometimes makes it difficult. But even the simplest form of nature, like having a flower in your house, it immediately brings a sense of hope, because nature is there always to remind us that this is coming and going. There was this beautiful, very short video of a tree somewhere up on a mountain, and it shows within, I think, 30 seconds how it goes through all the seasons. And if you watch it, of course, when there's spring and there's, buds blossoming and the sun and the colors, you can feel that even in your body. You can feel the joy. You can even notice a smile on your face. And then as autumn comes and then winter, you can truly feel, that it's getting colder and that it feels a bit lonely or isolated. Yet the tree is always there, and it always has this inner wisdom of spring, that inner trust that spring is coming. I think there was something I read a long time ago related to that it said that something like a question of how can we get tired of hope, because so much of it is in the bud, in the hope that that bud is going to blossom. So to me, it has a lot to do with this fullness of life and this trust that I can more easily tap into when I am close to nature. But there are so many other ways that we can tap into hope. And I would say that we can each maybe share a bit about what works for us. Like small things, simple things. Like Richard mentioned, we are not here to say that it's not hard, and that these are really difficult times for many people, but more like let's bring a sense of ease and of a bit more of a soothing sentiment, that there are small things and simple things we can do to tap into this sense of hope. And maybe we can share about some of these simple things that can bring us a sense of hope. And for example, I would give a very simple thing for me, which comes from my son, actually, my 6-year-old son, who like I also as a kid needed, when he goes to bed at night, he wants to have, that small lamp turned on to know there's a bit of light. And I remember a year or something ago when I asked him how does it make him feel to have that light, and he said to me that it feels like I'm still there in the room with him, even though he knows I'm not there. So somehow for me, seeing that light of a lamp, that's a cue for hope for me. Like turning on a lamp, when you first, in the darkness of the room, you turn on a lamp, for me that's a cue for hope. Or in the same way, it's saying a prayer, or even not saying anything at all, just being in a bit of a silence, which is probably the ultimate trust we have. So let's see if you guys want to share a bit of the things that you are doing that brings a sense of hope these days. Some simple things, quick things that our listeners can maybe grab onto and use in their daily lives.
Sure, and thank you for mentioning Petru, whom I know personally, and is an endless resource of hope, indeed. You're very lucky to have him nearby to remind you of what hope means in the smallest possible details. But I would also, while you were talking, something else came up. What gives me hope? It's people. And why do I say this? You all know very well that we've been trying to make SEL work in Verita for a number of years now. And at one point, we've started opening up to the broader community, other educators. For those of you not knowing, we work on establishing social and emotional learning as a key fact of education. And this means a lot of things, especially teacher support, increasing resilience in teachers so that they are able to be the best possible versions of themselves when they are in class and allow their creativity and brilliance to shine when they are in relation to their students. And we've been trying for a number of years to both make this available, not just for teachers in Veritas School, but also to the broader community, parents, other teachers, and so on. And for many years, we've kind of tried on a small scale, seeing how what works, what doesn't work, and all of a sudden, and this is where I would point the adversity aspect of hope. Hope manifests against all odds, against all adversities, against all difficulties. So against all hopes, I would say that this year we've had tremendous number of people interested in our programs. Since only last year there were a handful. And what changed? One thing we know for certain is that there's more anxiety, there's more uncertainty. So whenever we get into these deep emotions that are unsettling, we also tap into something else that is there. And I would say that hope is there lying dormant for all of us to use as a resource when we face difficulties. So all of a sudden, people and wonderful people came up and showed up, being interested in learning about SEL, and we have this amazing group right now in our educating course who are just everyday heroes. They are educators, they are professionals in their field, having the hope that they can deliver to the children the best possible education against all odds, online, offline, in villages, remote villages, in difficult conditions. So what makes hope stay alive? I would say there's a lot of things, but for me is especially this, given the surprise of this year, is really dropping expectations and allowing for a not knowing, for a sense of wonder, for a sense of curiosity related to the fact that once we cannot control all aspects of our lives or other people's lives, there's something else that comes into play to push things in a certain direction. And although sometimes it's against our wishes or our desires, life has a way of pushing things in a way, in a different direction that might actually turn out to be even better than everything that we expected. And I can think of people as a huge resource for hope. Other people, their struggles, their hopes, their inspirations, they're making my hope stay alive as well.
Wow, I just love that, Marius. That was very inspiring. And I think it brings up so many interesting points in the sense that, sometimes, well, first of all, I've seen in my own life that sometimes future expectations can also bring suffering and frustration because reality doesn't meet your expectations. So expectations and hope can be a two-sided coin. So in the sense that sometimes our expectations and our attachment to certain results or certain dreams can actually cause a lot of suffering and take us away from the present moment. But at the same time, maybe a better word for people who can't digest or swallow the word hope is the potentiality, the possibility of something else, the not knowing. Because I'll just give you an example that I've always in my life have found ways to be optimistic, to look at the positive side of things. It's just not something, it's just instinctual in me. Recently, I went through a pretty challenging health issues that it was hard to rephrase the diagnosis in a way that brought me certainty or brought me safety or brought me security. So it was a way of saying, look, you could be here for the next 20 years or you could not be here next year. And it really robbed me of my ability to rephrase things and state things in a way that was hopeful or optimistic, because in a way it just took away any kind of uh, certainty. And so sometimes it almost feels like that hope is something that gives you the certainty of the future, and life in many ways takes that away from you. And so I think for me, it put me in this box. It almost felt imprisonment because my toy of hope was taken away. And it's like, what now? And I think that hope or faith or trust is a way to not get stuck in some virtual reality playing in your mind about what a future can look like. And our minds can go constantly, from one scenario to another scenario, your mind is trying to find resolution, trying to find peace, trying to find some safety net. And your mind is replaying over and over again different scenarios in its head about the future, trying to find some security, trying to find some hope. And in many cases, your logical mind doesn't find it. And so it's very hard to find hope there. But it's really important to stay open and open to the possibility, to the uncertainty of what can happen. And it was a great challenge in my life to not get closed into some hopelessness, and B, still have faith and somehow say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. And I still choose. I still choose to see the openness of what can happen. And yeah, I admit to myself, I don't know what can happen, and I don't know what's there, and that can be very scary. But it's almost as if we have to be gatekeepers. We life is going to throw us what it's going to throw us, and we don't really have choice of what we're going to confront in our life. And we have thoughts that just pop into our heads, all kinds of thoughts, destructive thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts. And then we're and we don't have control of that either. But then we're the gatekeepers, and we sit there and say, okay, now here, my mind or life has thrown me all these different possibilities, all these ideas, all these thoughts, negative, positive thoughts. What am I going to do with this now? Where am I going to focus on? What am I going to devote myself to? And, and what we focus on becomes a reality. And so it's like a conscious choice in saying, okay, I don't really know what my future looks like with my health issues, right? But I choose to be open. I choose to devote my attention and my life, and that life is good, and that there is hope, and that there is a lightness there, and that I choose life over anxiety, fear, worry, and all the rest. Now, of course, in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to do that. and you're going to go through a roller coaster up and down, and even in my own life. But I sense that every time I come back to that place where I say, okay, it's uncertain, I don't know what's going to happen, and yet I have to have faith, and I have to have this openness, and I believe in new life. I believe in the goodness of it all, and that's incredibly stabilizing and incredibly grounding for me. And it's and I think people walk around life with a lot of hopelessness. People walk in life losing faith in life, and either feeling victimized or feeling there is no hope. And you see that in teenagers today, how young generation feels robbed of their future, or older people. And so, as I said in the beginning, I think the podcast is so much about, you know, uh, finding ways to relieving our anxieties, our fears, our worries, and meeting them in an intimate way, and in a loving way, and in an honest way, and an authentic way. But at the same time saying, I believe in life. I want to live a better life. I believe in the goodness.
Yes, that's right, Richard. Thank you for sharing that. Very inspiring conversation for me. I would add that sometimes this mind game of trying to catch hope by the foot fails, or this is my experience. And the reason I say that is that I have many times fell into this trap of trying to force hope, and this is where you can start having these false images of what hope is. And actually, talking about expectations, you start to draw and to build expectations that are not real, but that you call them hope. Now, this is my hope, this is my dream, and you can easily fall into a place that can be more dangerous. So what worked for me is to try as much as possible to ground myself in more sensory and bodily practices when it comes to hope, trying to be more intimate with things that are already there in my life. Although imagination and dreams, like you also shared, Richard, it's something that's very dear to my heart, and I can way too easily tap into that. But in the same time, I noticed how by doing that, many times you just become completely blind to what's right there in front of your face. So that's where these simple things I was mentioning, like being on a terrace with a cup of coffee, can bring the same sense of joy and hope into life and into future if you just truly sit with that cup of coffee. What do I mean by that? What happened recently was that we had this practice with the children. We have these online classes now, and I teach one online class where my son is also there. And we were sharing about how when we have our meal, we just eat our potatoes and soup and whatever. But we had this practice where we started questioning how many people did it take to have that food in front of us. Started counting all the people that had to grow the potatoes and then transport the potatoes and take them to the store and all of that. And so what I mean by truly being with that simple thing is that when you have that cup of coffee, if you go deeper into a sense of, as you sip that coffee and taste it, to truly kind of connect with all these people who made it possible for you to have that cup of coffee, instantly it's not an isolated moment anymore. Let's say instantly you're connected to so many people that just the thought of them doing these things and doing their part of work is so inspiring, and it gives you hope because it's something that's dynamic, it's movement, it's something that's happening right there. As I'm sipping my coffee, there's people who still make it possible, so the world is still there going on. And it was a beautiful realization for me that kept it more real and more in the present moment. And so this was one thing I wanted to tackle related to being careful of how we connect with this idea of hope, because if we project it too much in a future that's truly uncertain, we can easily miss out what's really going on in our lives in the moment. And then the second thing was related to something that's hard to do. It's hard for me, and this is why I'm bringing it here forth, so the wisdom of you two can maybe give more inspiration on how to do that, is having the patience. Because I truly feel hope has a lot to do with patience. It's something that, especially during these times, it has been tested a lot. And while I was also living on a day-to-day, really fast, fast-paced rhythm where everything was happening, and you have that immediate feedback loop that everybody's looking for, so that you feel fulfilled and that you've checked this on the list and that on the list. In a way, these couple of months have been harder in the sense of having patience with, as Mario said, not truly knowing what's there. So how do we cultivate this patience when it comes to hope? Because we're used, and our minds have been used for such a long time to have things done immediately and have results, and this is how we go on with our lives. And this is, in a way, this is what brings us hope, the fact that you see, okay, I've done this and I've done that, and we're not aware that we might get lost in a vicious cycle. But now, when we're kind of forced to have patience with the unknowing, how can we cultivate that more?
Well, it's interesting you've mentioned practices related to hope, because is it something we cultivate? Is it something we have? This is a valid question. Is it something that we just have faith in, or is it something practical? We need to do some steps to approach it. And I think that the main difference for me is the difference between hope and desire. I think that the main difference is that hope is something, a vision, a possibility that gives me strength in the present moment for something that I need to do. Okay, whereas desire, although they're healthy desires, yeah, kind of leave us wanting for more. You never really get you fulfill one desire and then you move on to the next. It's a continual struggle, an uphill struggle for something that we think we want. And I think it's really important to differentiate between desires and hope, because hope for me is something that is empowering us, is enabling us to raise a little bit above the present day conditions, above the present day difficulties, and connect and really stay connected to something more. And I would point, this has been, well, Richard was talking about this aspect of trust and openness, and I'm reminded of a poet I really admire, and that gives me hope, by the way, that when talking about hope, he said, "In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity." Of course, these are grandiose words, eternity, beyond. They mean a lot of things for different people, but I think we need to connect with that mystery. We know very little of this world. We know very little about ourselves, and I think we need to connect with that mystery. So life has been going on for at least 4 billion years here on Earth. So I think life itself has hope that It's in a way life's desire to just be, and this gives me hope that if life was present in various forms for the last 4 billion years, I think there's more to life than we can understand, and connecting with that sense of mystery, whether through prayer, dance, reading, dancing, talking to friends, thinking of people that inspire us, or just contemplating, or just journaling. I think there are a lot of ways, and all these ways are very particular to each individual. But what I say that it has in common, although all these techniques have in common, is ourselves taking a step back from life's everyday busyness, taking a step back from desire, taking a step back from us wanting, and remembering how it feels for us hoping. Yeah, that's it for me for now.
That was beautiful. I would see it also. I mean, for me, it's a paradox, and I grapple and juggle the different aspects of hope. And it's, for me, it's a dichotomy, it's a paradox, it's a contradiction. And I'll give you a much less, a more practical example. As an entrepreneur in sort of a reality-based situation where you're dealing with day-to-day things, I think hope has been incredibly powerful for me because in the difficulties of building a business, building an organization, you have this dream, you have this hope, and it gives you little bubbles in your stomach of excitement, and you dream of this, whatever it is you're thinking of doing. For me, maybe, for example, the school. I mean, many years ago, I had this dream of having a school, and there were so many ups and downs that if I didn't have in my mind the dream and that I had created in my head and the hope, and I had visualized it, the power of visualization and manifestation, through the journey of any entrepreneur, any dream you have, or any marriage you have, or there is this sort of idea that you're looking at, or this dream that you're going towards. And in so many ways, it can be very empowering because there's almost clarity in that hope. There's resilience because you're willing and you're seeing the difficulties of the ups and downs as just a part or a bump on the road to the final destination of that hope or that dream that you're looking for. So that has been incredibly inspiring to me and incredibly empowering to me, because it really gives you a belief and clarity on where you want to go. The contradiction is that when you demand to life and you argue with life and you say, this is my dream and why didn't I get it? You have to be willing to adapt and to accept that it might not look the way you wanted it to look, and that life is always going to change it on you and give you all kinds of versions and ways of your dream or your hope that you never really expected. And you can't demand things on life. And you have to be willing to adapt, and you have to be willing to accept, and as you said, Leela, be patient in the sense that it's not going to go your way. And if you demand it, then you become a victim and say, look, life was unfair to me, and look, I didn't get what I wanted, and this isn't fair, and also you miss the ride, because if you're so stuck on the dream of the future, you miss the ride along the way, like on a train ride, and you're missing the beautiful countryside, and you're missing the beautiful towns that the train is passing through, and you're missing life in this moment because you're so invested in some future. So it's something that I'm constantly going back and forth in this contradiction. And it's okay to have the paradox of, I believe in hope, I believe in dreaming, and you see the power of how you can really manifest things in your life and build things. And that sense of hope gives you a lot of power and a lot of resilience. But at the same time, it can bring you equal amount of suffering and victimization and really not living in the present moment. So it's something we have to be careful of in juggling these two concepts, and they can live together in harmony. I believe is just understanding the dynamics and being able to accept and swallow this contradiction, this paradox of life. And so we need both, I believe.
Thank you, Richard, for sharing that. Yes, it's there are many things that starting from hope they derive, because of course hope is related to so many things in our lives, and each one can relate to something. That's why I think it's valuable to have different sharings from each and everyone's life. I say that if you guys are up to it, we can, since we've shared so many practices related to hope and what helps us in the moment, and because I'm going to stick to this idea I have, that we have to take on the simple things, the things that are in our homes, the people that are around us, because we are in a way forced to be more inside maybe, and not so able to connect with our friends and with the communities we used to be connected with. So because we are in this situation, I wanted this podcast in a sense to be this breath of fresh air for people to kind of take on a few ideas of when you have that day when it's so hard and so difficult, and even if mentally, like even listening to a podcast, and I do that a lot, and I watch videos and I try to get inspired from books and everything. Many times it is a mental thing. It has to do with a lot of cognitive abilities, and I realize that I get lost in that. So for people, it can be truly inspiring to hear that there's ways that you can access this, maybe not instantly, but um, to have a possibility that within your home, when you wake up in the morning and it feels heavy again, and there are all these things that from the moment you open your eyes, sometimes when you are in really difficult times, it kind of feels like you're in this movie. And I have a very close friend of mine who's going through a very difficult time in her life, and she said to me that many times it just she wakes up and she feels like this is all a scenario, and that day by day when she wakes up it feels heavier and heavier to realize that this is an ongoing movie. So then, of course, in the beginning, the impulse is to just give advice and give ideas, and especially not being able to be close to that person, and to really connect and look into their eyes so they can feel you are there present for them, or just give a hug. You start off giving all these advices and words of wisdom and quotes and poems and all of the things we've shared also, which is okay, and it's beautiful. And then I realized that it at one point it felt heavy for me too, to keep doing that, because I was looking deeper and deeper into myself of resources to share that could bring a light into her life. And I had to come to that acceptance, to that sort of surrender, although this is a tricky word for many, but to kind of surrender to the fact that it is hard, and it is what she's going through, and there's so much that I can be part of that. And when that happened, I don't know if it was hope. There's it has so many nuances, but there was kind of like, to me, it's more related to a sense of curiosity. I always trust in this flow. Like there's always, even in my body, viscerally, I can feel it sometimes during meditation. There's this sense like a river flow that I don't. It hasn't happened, God forbid, you never know, but it hasn't happened to have that sense of, the river stops, there's no more water flowing. That sense of river is there, but it's hard to access it many times. And what I felt in that moment to surrender was that, okay, I know it's there, I know it's hard to access it right now, but the trust that the flow is there is always. And I try to find ways of how can I connect to that sense. I just took it. It's an image I have. It's the same as when I watch water coming out of a tap. Like it's as simple as turning on the water in the kitchen sink or in the bathroom and just looking at the water flowing. So it's something that I've kind of learned to have these reminders here and there where I can take that moment, and even if it's maybe even so hard to breathe in that moment, that it's so hard to go through what we're going through in the moment, it just gives a moment of deconnecting from my mental state, which is always so busy, and there's so much going on there, and so many opinions and memories and ideas and judgment. And it's okay, and I know it's okay for it to be that way. The mind is trying to find the solutions and save us from what we're going through, and we've been trained all our lives to take that path. So that's not the wrong thing about it. There's no right or wrong, but it's just that I realized when I can connect to an experience that takes me, even for seconds, away from that mental process into a more bodily and kinesthetic and sensory experience, it just makes it for a couple of seconds more quieter. And then I can hear the flow of that river again. It's there. Like, of course, turning actually the water on the tap, it helps because it gives that sense of a river, but everybody can have their own practice, their own experience, and it's different from imagination and unrealistic hopes, because it's something that's always there. For me, it's always the idea of the river flowing that brings me back to the trust in life. So this is why I'm grateful that both of you shared actual things that you can do that bring you back, because I want to give people this sense of this is one thing you can do being right now at home and going through something really difficult.
I love that analogy, and I'm going to play on that metaphor. Just as you were talking, these images came in my mind as if, this flow, this river, and ultimately it's a question: do you believe at the end of this river there is a waterfall that you crash to your death and you just, there's rocks at the bottom of it? Or does the river flow into a beautiful lake or ocean, and you're connected with life? And so I think it's an ultimate leap of faith, of hope, of where does this river end up? And I think hope suggests that it ends up in this calm lake, or we enter this ocean of connectivity, versus we're alone in this boat on the river, and at the end of this there's so much darkness and uncertainty, and we're just crash to our deaths. And so it's like it's sort of like a belief system, and whether it's true or not doesn't really matter. It's what kind of life do you want to live in, this trust and faith, and that it will ultimately be okay without having any certainty what will be at the end of this river, and that there will be rocks and bumps along the way on this river, and yes, we can maneuver the boat a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, by choosing, do we live in anxiety and fear and worry of this uncertainty, which can make the ride a little bit less bumpy. But of course, there's inevitably going to be a few rocks along the way, and we have to celebrate and enjoy this ride on this river. We're in this such a blessing of this life. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but it is a blessing, and we have to make live it to the fullest. And so there will be rocks along the way, and we do have some ability to maneuver it, but at the end of the day, we don't have the ultimate control of everything, and the river will go where it will go. So I'm just playing off that analogy you had. So that's my feedback on it.
Thank you. Don't change now. Coming back, because I don't want to change it for me. So the river is flowing, there's no waterfall where I crash and die, okay? Leave it for me as I had it. So I don't want to change it now. There's the element of waterfall now, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll stick to my river flow. Yes. I just had this thing coming in the back of my mind now that I remembered from a friend that said there was this Portuguese saying. I don't know how to say it in Portuguese, but if translated in English, it sounded something like when you hope for something, and you're afraid because there's a lot of fear. It says that go, and if there's fear, go with fear. And I remember that in the moment when she first shared that, it doesn't work that way, because you can't really go with fear. You have to first, we have, this idea that first I need to get rid of fear, anxiety, all of those things. And only then am I ready to fully embrace life and be hopeful and all of that. And I remember that when she shared that, it stayed with me. I wrote it down on the back of a notebook I had, and I would come back to it every time. I was like, okay, there's fear. You go with fear. And I couldn't swallow it for a long, long time. I couldn't swallow it until this, crazy times came when I had to go with fear every single day. And it was a practice. So I think in a way, hopes becomes more alive and fresh and renewed and colored when you are at the bottom of despair and at the bottom of fear. It doesn't always come out that easily. There's people who are blessed, they're born with this, I don't know, joy and hope, and everything seems easy. But for a lot of other people, it's something that you feel like, I have to work for this, I have to find it somewhere, I have to dig it. And it takes a long time, because you have these ideas that first you have to go through this really scary and hard process. And so I just wanted to end with this idea for me that even if there's fear, we can go with fear. We can be with it and still wake up every single day and do the things that bring us joy.
And if I may, I remember sometimes hope is just showing up. I remember, I don't know who said this, but there was someone, people were looking up to her and saying, "Wow, she had such a difficult life, and she pulled through somehow, and she's such an inspiration for a lot of people." And she kind of dismissed all of this and said, "Look, all I did was showing up every day. I kept sticking to what I had to do. Because I believed that what I was doing was the right thing to do. So sometimes it's just showing up for whatever you have to do, whatever we have to do, sticking up with whatever is there, and really holding on to a belief, an idea, or trusting that there's some good out there, and that we can connect with that, and let it enable and empower us to do the things we need to do."
Beautiful, Marius. Thank you. So then this is the time for Richard to show up and do the things he has to do, which is guide us through.
What do I have to do? Oh, what am I doing?
If you want to, so we can
the
end
guided the guide. Yes.
Yes, we can end the podcast. We thought, okay, the idea was to have, this beautiful dialogue between the three of us, but at the end of each podcast to leave people with a short practice that we are also going to benefit from. So we are the first lucky ones here. And so we'll give you a few minutes maybe to guide us through a short practice. It can be on hope, but it can also be on whatever arises within you right now.
Sure. Okay. So whoever's out there listening, whether you're in the car or, in bed putting your children to sleep or whatever, and you just have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, let's put the practice to reality. So, just take a few seconds to drop down into your body, to just stop the automatic mind that is wandering and going and trying to accumulate information. Just sort of slow things down. You can gently close your eyes if you feel that would help you, or you can keep them open, but just try to put your attention on your body and feel where there's tension, whether your shoulders, try to drop down your shoulders a little bit. We can intellectualize and have concepts and talk endlessly about ideas of life, but at the end of the day, it gets really real when we just come back to our bodies and we put our attention on this beautiful thing we call life and this body right here, right now. And no better way than to just feel where there's tension in your body. Makes it really real. So you just drop down your shoulders. You release whatever tension you have in your stomach, maybe. You soften your face. Maybe a gentle smile always relaxes you. It's a reminder that everything's going to be okay. Wherever we are in our life, we're just doing the best we can. And it's okay. We're all trying to do the best we can. You are beautiful. Your life is what it is, and you're doing the best you can. And it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to fight anymore or worry anymore. Right here, there's no emergencies. There are no worries right here. Just a gentle reminder that everything's okay. Let your body and your heart really hear that. That it's been hard. And it's okay. We always come back to the body. We let go of our tension wherever you feel it in your body. Relax your legs. Relax your arms. You're just slowing everything down, giving a little space to your heart. And whatever's going on, maybe it won't be resolved. Maybe it will be. We don't know. But maybe if we can just have a little open heart, release all the anxiety and tension in our bodies, maybe the rest of the day will be a little lighter. Or tomorrow, there might be a little bit more space, a little bit more openness, a little bit more hope. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. You can slowly open your eyes now. Lila, I don't know, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. I was still in the moment. That was really nice and refreshing. Thank you for sharing the practice with us, Richard.
Thank you.
And a big thank you to the both of you for being part. This is our first podcast, and I'm very excited that we can start off with, we have started off with this topic on hope, and we'll see what we are inspired with to continue on these conversations, heartful conversations, as we called the podcast. So thank you very much to the both of you for being here today. And thank you to all of you out there listening, and hoping you can reach out and tell us things that would inspire you to talk about and to bring a bit more ease in our lives and to go through this together. So see you next time. Thank you.
Lots of love. Lots
Take
of love,
care.
guys. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.